And a good evening. Welcome out to Little Woodrose. We're in the Colonnade Shopping Center, Fallon Boulevard in Beaumont. I invite you to come out and talk Cardinal football. Lamar Cardinals getting set finally to get into conference play this coming Saturday up in Natchitoches, Louisiana. I just love saying Natchitoches. Natchitoches, Louisiana against Northwestern State. We'll be talking about that here in just a little bit. First off, Coach, let's go back this past Saturday, the home opener against Northern Colorado. Just talk about the excitement leading up to the home opener. Good crowd on the home side when you come out of the locker room for warm-ups, and it just had to be really exciting, not only for the kids but for the coaching staff as well.
Yeah, just the comfort of being at home, and you go around the stadium and you look around, and they did a great job of just setting up different, just things for the atmosphere, and it's an awesome atmosphere. If you compare it, I haven't been to a lot of different FCS places, but it's got to be as good a tailgating atmosphere as any place in the country, and you got to tip your hat to Dr. Taylor and Jeff O'Malley and the job they've done just creating the environment. Now what we've got to do is our end of the bargain and continue to bring a quality product and team, and we're continuing to try to bring that to the table.
Leading up to the game, what's your usually routine? This was a 6 o'clock kickoff. Does the team walk over together, or they just have to get to the field house at a certain time? What's the pregame setup?
Yeah,
for
it's a little different than an away game. So in home games, everybody stays in their dorm or in their apartment, and then we eat a pregame meal together, and then everybody is kind of trickling in to the locker room on their own. And so I've got to take a hard look at that. And what I tried to do is match as much of the home routine to the away routine, because I thought at SMU I thought we played pretty well, and I thought we were ready to play. And so I've got to. You're always trying to look at doing different things and trying to create as much routine as you can for your guys.
Some schools have a team walk up together, walk through things like that, but
I'd love to have that, and our guys have indicated they really would like to have a team walk, like with the band through a crowd. So we've got to work at that, and maybe for homecoming we can create that atmosphere and create a team walk and make that a tradition.
Let's go back to last week's ball game. The home opener, unfortunately, a 21-14 setback to Northern Colorado. Very competitive game from start to finish. Yeah,
we didn't start very well, frankly. I mean, we did on defense and had a couple of stops, and then on offense, I thought we had a 3rd and 5, and then we had a false start penalty, which led to 3rd and 10. And then indecision, at quarterback and holding the ball, and we get hit, and they go and fumble and score. It's just, it sets a bad taste in your mouth. We rallied back and go to 7-7, but the very beginning wasn't a great start. We just got to start faster. We got to start better, and we've talked. I've talked with our guys. Like special teams, I think we're playing really, really hard, but we haven't made that play. And so we've got to do that this coming week, and somebody somewhere's got to make a play to spark it, and then I think it'll be rolling from there.
Again, we can only use this so much, but it's true. You're a young team, still waiting for that game from the start to finish, play a complete ball game.
Yeah, again, you're seeing signs of it, because I think from the start to the beginning. From the beginning to the end, I think our effort is there. I think we're playing harder than we've ever played. So I'm very positive and enthusiastic about that. And now what's got to come with it is just the execution part, which is the fundamentals and just playing a clean game, as I would call it. And that's turnovers, that's penalties. And then that puts everything together, and you're never going to play a completely clean game. But with a young team, there's really little margin for error, and so we've just got to sharpen that up a little bit as we go forward.
I'm going to fast forward a little bit about your final offensive play in that game, and something at the end of it, I really liked what I saw. Unfortunately, Nick throws the interception. He's upset, and you've talked about this young man before, Hunter Batten. Hunter Batten had his hand on Nick's back all the way off the field, all up and down the sideline, basically saying, hey, shake it off. You're gonna bounce back. You're gonna be fine. And I really like that leadership we saw from Hunter following a play that he knew upset his quarterback.
Yeah, Hunter is just really he epitomizes like what we want in a Lamar Cardinal. He's a team guy. He puts everyone ahead of himself. I mean, he works relentlessly, and he's just a tough guy. I mean, he got a few extra carries the other night, and we need. That's why we brought him here to Lamar, basically to be an older leader, which we don't have many of,
right,
but to emulate for younger guys what we want them to look towards. And a guy like R.J. Carver, you haven't heard of him, but he's one of our tailbacks, and a kid that is just kind of came in here a little immature, and Hunter has done such an awesome job in that room, helping those guys grow and just become more mature young men. And that's just, as a coach, that's what you want to see, and that's why we coach.
We are at Little Woodrose talking Lamar University football. Again, we'll take our first break. When we come back, we'll look at the numbers from Saturday's home opener against Northern Colorado. We're back with more of the Coach Blane Morgan Show on News Talk 560 KLVI. Harold Mann along with Coach Blane Morgan back at Little Woodrose in the Colonnade Shopping Center right off Phelan Boulevard here in Beaumont, talking Lamar University football. Let's look at some of the numbers from this past Saturday's setback, 21-14 to Northern Colorado. Coach, I thought your running game stepped up from the first two ball games against Abilene Christian and Southern Methodist University with Kaylin Griffin and DeMaja Harris both going over 60 yards.
Yeah, both those guys ran the ball hard. I thought, you had a guy like Major Bowden, who's a true freshman, number 20. He's very elusive. And
he had 42 yards.
Yeah, whenever he gets the ball in his hands, he had a couple receptions on swing passes. He has been super productive. And so I'm excited. I mean, you get a true freshman. DeMaja Harris is in his second year.
Right.
He's very explosive. And then Kaylin Griffin is kind of more of a powerful back. And we talked about those guys last week, and we knew that they were going to play kind of a bend, don't break defense, and we tried to take advantage of it.
Let's talk about Hunter real quick. 9 carries for 34 yards, 4 receptions for 25 yards. That's 13 touches.
Yeah, we put him in there. He's to me. We want to play our reliable guys we can trust, and he's one of those guys. And you love him. I mean, he's just an incredible leader on our team, and did a great job on Saturday night.
Quarterback-wise, Mike Chandler, 5 out of 13, 1 interception, 11 yards. You bring in Nick Yaki. Nick, 10 out of 11, 77 yards, and unfortunately that pick inside the 10-yard line as the Cardinals were driving down the field, hopefully tie the ball game. And but just talk about your QB play on Saturday night.
Yeah, I thought Mike was just to be frank, he was a little somewhat indecisive, and you saw growth from week 1 to week 2, him stepping up into the pocket and making some good decisions. And I thought he held the ball a little bit and the ball wasn't coming out on time. Very simple stuff. Try to get him going with some bubbles. Try to get the ball in Jalen Dumay's hands, which it would have been very good for us had he just made simple throws, and he didn't do that. And so we just felt like we needed a change of pace, and Nick comes in, and you just saw him be again, the word that I've always used with quarterbacks is being decisive, just knowing where to go with the ball, making throws on time when, taking what a defense gives you. And that's what we have to have. We've got to be very, very efficient, with our football team, and we got to win the turnover margin, and we've got to be disciplined with penalties and those things. But Nick came in, made some throws, let us down. We got inside of 2 minutes, and he let us down, and he would have, of course, loved to have that last throw back because he had some time, and what he threw was there in 2-man coverage, two deep over the top with man underneath, and we had the second Kendon Fuchler coming in on the dig route, and he was open, and he would love to have that back. I thought we were going to take that thing into overtime and have a repeat of the year before, but we didn't.
You've been on both ends of it as a player and now coach. At what time do you say, okay, it's time to make a change? At what time? I mean, because Mike Taylor, he's a competitor. You love him, having him out there. But at what time, as a coach, you say we've got to make this change?
Yeah, playing quarterback's a little bit about getting into a rhythm as a thrower, and so unfortunately for him, he had a couple of guys drop balls early, and so I think that had a little bit of an effect on him, and then caused them to maybe hold the ball a little bit, and you just see maybe like a pitcher in baseball, a guy is just a little off with his throws, his curveball's not breaking on him, it's hanging a little bit, and that was it. That was just it. We were like, Mike's just a little off tonight. Nick has done a great job throughout fall camp. Let's give him a shot, throw him in there, knowing that we're going into conference play this week, and so just so you have two guys that have had some adequate reps, and you've got choices now at the quarterback position.
On the defensive side of the ball, it's always good to see double-digit tackles, and Adrian Owens, he had a great ball game for you, 3 solo, 8 assisted. He had 11 tackles.
Yeah, he's a guy that plays with his hair on fire. He plays relentlessly and does a good job for us.
Austin Goffney, we talked about him. He had 8 tackles, and Blake. I thought Blake, he ended up with 8 tackles, and a couple of those came at good times. Yeah,
you look at Blake Gocher. He's just been steady, very steady for us, and had the pick in the SMU game, and he's a guy that walked on to our football team out of the Frisco area, and he is just a guy that loves ball. He's a football junkie. That's kind of what he's all about. That's how he's wired. He's kind of like one of those old school Big Ten linebackers, just a hard nose, very tough and physical, and you love being around him.
Talk special teams a little bit. Couple kickoffs, not afraid to bring them out, and I like that.
That is the area where we were inches away, really. DeMaje Harris on one, Andre Dennis on the other. Just really, literally, like a couple inches away from that thing going all the way, and they got one out to the 30 and one out to the 35. So that's something we can certainly build on and add to coming up this week.
Is that the kick returner's decision? How do you work on that? Because if you obviously you make the fair catch, you get it to 25, you let it go, you get into the end zone, you get it to 25. Do you leave that up to the returner themselves?
Now with the fair catch rule, really you want to return a kickoff when you catch it in the exact perfect spot to return it, or if the kicker doesn't hit it very well, you want to go. Now if the thing's in the end zone or it's off kind of where your return zone, now you just fair catch it and you get the ball at the 25. And so we've changed the way we've coached it. Now we work kickoff return because it can be such an explosive play like it was the other night. We still work it really hard, but other people I guess choose to fair catch it all the time and just take it at the 25.
Going to get our second break in. Going to give Coach a break during the next segment. We'll be talking strength and conditioning. We're at the Little Woodrow's Colonnade Shopping Center talking with Coach Blane Morgan, talking Lamar University football. We return on News Talk 560 KLVI. Harold Mann back with you at Little Woodrow's Colonnade Shopping Center. It's the Coach Blane Morgan show. But before we introduce our next guest, James Dixon, this is a guy you told me you could beat in arm wrestling with your left hand?
Yes.
Okay, just checking. Davis Connolly, strength and conditioning coach at Lamar University. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Tell us a little about your background and where'd you grow up and maybe a playing career and things along those lines.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Winter Haven, Florida. It's about right in between Tampa and Orlando. It used to be a small town. Now it's pretty big. I went to college at a small school in Georgia called LaGrange College. Played football there. I usually tell people I just lived on the training table. I don't know how much I really played, which kind of what led me into this. Started doing some internships just because I was interested in the field. And when I graduated, interned and did some, part-time coaching gigs. They say part-time, but you don't work part-time hours.
Right, no.
Did my grad school out in South Dakota at Northern State, and then kind of bounced to LSU. COVID happened, then La Tech, UIW, and that's when Coach Morgan and I got in contact, and I've been here since March.
How does a kid from Florida end up in South Dakota especially in January? You think about the month of January.
Ooh, man, not by luck, that's for sure. We got down to negative 60 at some point. So
That's rough.
Yeah, they told me at first, they said school never gets canceled. It just either snows or gets cold a lot. Well, they didn't know a polar vortex was going to happen while I was there. So it snowed a lot and it was cold. So it was a blast, though. Good people out there.
Coming into a football program like Lamar, a lot of young guys. You're working with, in some cases, 17-year-olds, 17, 18, 19-year-olds. Just talk about the philosophy, the routine, the procedure to develop these young men in a weight room.
Right. My big two things are authenticity and creating people who are anti-fragile. So, football is a violent, robust game, so I'm going to train you in a violent, robust manner. The kids here they've responded to me really well ever since I've been here. I exposed them what I call real training. Try to prepare everyone. It's one game, but there's so many small games going inside of it. You don't train exactly the skill guys how you do the mid guys, and the mid guys like you do the big guys. So there's a little bit more emphasis on certain parts of it, and that's just kind of how I go about it.
Is it competitive among those kids? Do they get I could lift more than you can lift, things along those lines?
The linemen, yes, but ever since I've been, when we put out the laser times, the timing gates for them, that's where the heavier guys tend to just feel like, well, it is what it is, and that's where the skinny guys you see.
Explain laser time. What do you mean by that?
So we have, Coach Morgan was able to get me some stuff here so I could use for our data, sprint profiling. And so when we put out the lasers, that's where, if you watch NFL Combine, how they do their timing. So we have stuff like that I'm able to use. That way I can get a little more accurate, consistent times with the guys.
Visiting with Davis Connolly, strength and conditioning coach here at Lamar University. How often do you lift? Do you want to lift every day? Game day, you want to stay away from weights? What's your philosophy on that?
So we like to, Coach Morgan and I, we work together on making sure I match stressors with practice. So, him and I have done a really good job with that. I think that's why our guys are feeling fresh, staying relatively healthy. So we lift Sundays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, and we call those days low, high, and moderate days. So our low day is the day after the game, and that's where we basically just come in. We get them to move again. We do a lot of upper body stuff just because, they just fought in a phone booth for 3 hours the day before, and we do a very easy practice. And then Tuesday is our hardest practice. This day we're full pads. We're hitting the most. We're running the most high-speed yards. So that's the day I'm going to work them hardest in the weight room. And then Wednesday is kind of our blend where we're still in shells. We're still out there for about an hour and a half to an hour and 40 minutes. So that's the day where I do my last bit of backside posterior chain work, hamstring, stuff like that, just because I know they won't sprint for 48 hours. And then I do a lot of my upper body stuff that way they feel fresh going into Saturdays.
Well, you may have kind of touched on this a little bit, but is the routine different, say, for a quarterback and receiver than a defensive tackle in a weight room?
Yeah, always the needs of it, while the position might be subtly different. Guys they're constant. They need to be strong. They need to be powerful. And so, that's a demand at every position. I think at certain schools you can get a little bit more into the minute details with resources and facilities and stuff. But how I'm training, the only difference is guys who might play more plays or less plays. Our developmental guys do a little bit more, but our in-season guys, if they're on the travel squad, they're going to train for about the most part the same way.
What about nutrition? Do you factor into that and what these guys should be eating and not eating, things along those lines?
Yeah, the nutrition piece is that's the king. There's a reason so many schools are investing so much money into it now. And for these guys, I just want them to eat. Yeah. There's so many guys, it's just hard to get them to put calories in. Whether it
be fruit, whether it be a cheeseburger, just whatever.
Right. Yeah. So that's why. If I had an endless budget and stuff, that obviously I would love to do that. But the more I can get them, the more I can, because how we take attendance is we weigh them in every morning for these guys. So tracking their weights, especially comparative to what they were in the summer, and the guys have been doing a pretty good job at it, at least staying consistent.
Let's fast forward ahead. Off season, does your off season program work in the weight room?
That's the fun time. So that's what we'll go. We do a 4-day split. It's called a high-low model. So the high days, you can basically just call those hard days. That's the day we get outside, we sprint, resisted sprints, med balls, and jumps. And I like to really take my time out there. It's not conditioning sessions. It's where I want to develop real speed. And those benefits carry over no matter what position you play. The weight room, those are going to be your harder lifts, your cleans, your squats, your RDLs, things like that. Low days, especially early off season, I'm not worried about trying to get him into shape. This is when I want him to sleep and eat as much as possible. So those low days, we're coming in, we're banging out bench, we're doing press, we're doing rows, chin-ups, things of that nature, get him really jacked up top. So that's kind of how it'll go. It'll be a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday split.
I guess it's changed over the past several years. After you play your final game, it doesn't end then and then start when you report back in August.
Right, yes, sir. Yeah, it's a year-round devotion to it. That's what I think is awesome about football is you train pretty much for about 45 weeks, or you train about 30 some odd weeks for 11, and that's what makes it so unique. And majority of programs you're lucky if you get 2 to 6 weeks off a year.
Without necessarily calling the kid out by name, if you want to, that's fine as well. But has any player really stepped it up and you said, wow, look how much he's developed over the last few weeks?
I mean, to me, I'll highlight a few.
Right.
Some of the most consistent guys, Savon Rea. I never hear a word of complaint out of him. He trains like a warrior. And there's he's a jacked up dude, especially for a small guy, and he works his tail off. Jalen Dumais, never hear a word of complaint out of him, does everything the right way, kills it in the weight room, crushes it in the field work. I mean, those two, especially for the skinny guys, have been great. And then in the trenches, Jacob Baer is probably, I've been in a lot of weight rooms, is probably the strongest kid I've ever seen. Jacob DeSherry's really devoted himself to changing his body. Drew Moss on the defensive side, Aiden Bell, Jack McCarthy, Jamin Jackson. I mean, those guys they've worked relentlessly. So
and what I guess I'm not gonna say unique or coincidence, but all those names you just mentioned, those kids that are competing and excelling on the field, so it does carry over from the weight room to the field.
100%. And I don't care how much you lift or the weights per se. I mean, that stuff, you have to make sure you're doing the right stuff, but it's more of the consistency, the approach, how you go about your training, and like I said, becoming anti-fragile, building a robustness to you. That way you can play and thrive in the games.
Now, what about on the road? When you travel on the road, of course, like we'll leave Friday, head up to Natchitoches, and Saturday, the game day. Mm-hmm. You're not going to hit a weight room, obviously, but or are you? But what's a routine on a regular road trip?
Well, you can't score any points until the game starts. So my biggest thing is I want to put as many calories as I can for that. And if we had access to a weight room every single time, I would probably go about it maybe a little bit differently. But I know consistently, for the most part, we're not going to have a weight room access on that day. So I just try to get them to hydrate, eat as much as possible, and then we try to push everything as close to game time as possible. That way we can ramp it up, get them feeling as fresh as we can before the game, and then go play.
Davis, welcome to Southeast Texas. Thanks for stopping by, and these kids are getting bigger and better every day because of the hard work you and your staff do.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
All right, Davis Conley, strength and conditioning coach at Lamar University. We're back on the Coach Blane Morgan Show on News Talk 560 KLVI. Harold Mann back with you along with Lamar University head football coach Blane Morgan. We're at Little Woodrow's in the Culinary Shopping Center on Fallon Boulevard, just up the road a few feet from the intersection of Dallin. Come on by and see us throughout the duration of the football season on Wednesday nights between 7 until 8. Coach Davis Conley was just on with us, your strength and conditioning coach. Just talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, I think if there's anything here in the last 2.5 years that has helped us transition our program, it's the addition of him. I mean, he is the thing that you get with Davis is you get just our standards reiterated every single day, over and over, and then he's very good at what he does and holding kids accountable, and you can just see on the field such a huge growth in our offensive line, our defensive line, our skill positions, how well they're running, and down the road, we've only had him since really April, May, June, July, 4 months. Mm-hmm. So imagine now we're going to get him for a full off season with basically our entire roster coming back. That's exciting for me. because I just know what he brings to the table. He's such a huge addition, and unfortunately, it's taken a long time to get him here, but now he's here and with us, and what an awesome addition to our football program.
He talked about the work ethic of all your kids doing a great job. A couple of them, he really pointed out to Savon Ray, Jalen Dume. He talked about their work ethic in the weight room, and you see that carry on to the playing field.
Yeah, those two guys, and you can go. The cool thing is you can go kind of on and on and on about the number of kids on our team that just work ethic, that come out to practice, that do a great job just every single day. Very, very consistent. And then you just now, what we've got to do is in football, you've got to have 11 on offense and defense and everybody every play doing that. Right. And so we're getting to the point where we're getting more consistent, and now that's got to continue in order, and the ultimate result, what everybody wants is, at the end of the game, to be at 1 point ahead. And but we're moving in that direction, just getting more consistent, and it all started, back in April when Davis came.
How closely do you work with him? Do you meet with him on a daily basis, weekly basis? The interaction between the head coach and the strength and conditioning coach, how closely do you work together?
Yeah, it's been such a huge transformation with our program in that. So we sit down, we go through the entire off season, and it's a daily, like how our guys worked every single day. And then what we did is when we got into fall camp, we went through every single practice. And so he is the expert on just kind of the physiology of the human body. And so I trust him. And so that's how we scheduled practice, is the workload on our guys. And so we went week by week. And now it's more scientific as much as anything, how you practice. And when you go high, when you go medium, when you go low, when we're pushing our guys and when we're pulling back. And I think what you've seen is just durability-wise, we've got so many fewer guys out with injury right now than we've ever had out in the past. And that's had a lot to do with him.
Now, with the true freshmen, and you do have a lot of those. The true freshmen, have you seen their young bodies develop, strengthen up, get tougher since he's been here?
Yeah, we've only had those guys. We had those guys in mid-June. It's kind of when the third week in June is when we bring them in. So they get about a month in the program, and so they get those guys actually throughout the season can gain some strength. And you've seen it. I mean, right. I looked up there the other night on defense, and Tyler Jackson got ejected out of that game, and Braden Faulkner's in there, and he played it really, really well, and Aaron King at corner is in there. We had three true freshmen in there on defense, and still that's where we are with our team. If we get guys hurt, our depth is still with a lot of first-year guys in the 2 deep, and we're older with our starting 22, but if we get guys injured now, hey, those guys are going to be subbed out by some true freshmen coming in.
Before we start talking about Northwestern State, I want to jump back. You mentioned the ejection. I want to jump back to that game Saturday night. 9 reviews. They went upstairs 9 times. I know you want to get the call right. I understand that, but I don't think I've ever seen that. 9 reviews up to the booth.
Yeah, and there were a couple that were just interesting, and I frankly am dumbfounded by just some of the how they're reviewing calls, and I don't want to question those guys because they frankly they've made it really hard for officials and replay guys to officiate some of the calls in the game. The targeting call is like they're going to slow it down in super slow-mo, but that's not how the play happened. And so quarterback is a runner, and then all of a sudden at the last second he decides to slide, and you're supposed to back off. That
when you're going full speed.
Yeah. So as a coach, I'm really at a loss for how do I coach that kid? He's a runner. And then he's not sliding like way before. He's sliding like when he's getting hit, he slides, and that's a targeting call. And so I'm a little bit at a loss I was at a loss on that play. And then, of course, the incomplete pass that maybe was an interception.
Yeah.
That I didn't know that I wanted to. I knew it was something, and they were going to run a play, and they were going to allow them to run a play. The replay guys didn't stop that
They
play.
didn't buzz
I
down?
stopped it.
Okay.
And then they overturned it, and we don't have a TV up in our box, and so I just felt like that was funky, and the whole sequence of events. It was kind of a weird sequence of events with all the replays and stoppages and everything like that. They've got to try to limit those as much as we can.
Coming up Saturday, Northwestern State. They are 0-3, lost to number 2 Montana 47-0. In Shreveport, they lost to Grambling 47-21. Last week in Hattiesburg, they lost to Southern Miss 64-10. Watching them, what are concerns? What do you see with the Demons on Saturday?
Yeah, when you look at them, and you go back to the preseason, all conference teams and all that, they're littered. They got plenty of all conference players, and if I'm our SID sitting right here, if I remember correctly, we had none on the preseason all conference team, and so just look at that alone. Yeah. But what you see, their strengths are certainly their fronts. Their defensive front is massive. They got some. They're huge up front. Even they're a 4-down front, and they're going to be their defensive ends are enormous, and they're big inside, and they're going to try to stop their defense coordinator is going to stop the run, and so a little bit of a different turn than last week. They were going to give you the run. They were going to bend but don't break. These guys they're going to mix it. He has done a really nice job on their defense, just mixing their defense and moving and kind of giving you a number of different looks.
Going to get our final break in. When we come back, we'll talk more about Northwestern State and get ready to head up to Natchitoches for a Saturday afternoon game back at Little Woodrose, the Coach Blane Morgan Show on News Talk 560 KLVI. Harold Mann along with Coach Blane Morgan talking Lamar University football at the Little Woodrose here in the Colonnade Shopping Center on Fallon Boulevard in Beaumont. As always, we do invite you to stop by on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock. Cardinals getting set to go up to Natchitoches and take on Northwestern State, a team that's 0-3. They've not really shown much offensively, 10.3 points a game. Defensively, they're giving up nearly 53, but you also look at a matter of fact, the 3 opponents taking on a number 2 FCS opponent at Montana in Hattiesburg last week in Southern Miss. Quarterback is Miles Fallon. What's he show you?
Yeah, he's a taller kid. They're going to try to run him a little bit, but they're air raid team, so they've got little scatty receivers. They're going to try to get the ball out in space to those guys and make some plays with them. 2
of those receivers you're talking about, Javon Antonio and Kennard King. And you mentioned, they've got several, because you look at their depth chart, and they've got several different receivers that have caught a pass in the first 3 games.
Yeah, they're gonna try to spread the ball around and they're gonna spread you out on defense, and we've got to do a great job of just containing their quarterback and rushing the passer. And when our offense is going against our defense, like today we do a 2-minute drill every day on Wednesday. It's chaos over there. I mean, those guys we've got a couple guys that can absolutely rush the passer. Jalen Freeman, I think it really has grown a lot. And then, excuse me, those interior guys, I mean, they wreak havoc, and I'm excited to see those guys in action on Saturday.
What about their running game? Because, you mentioned they throw the ball a lot, but they do have talent running back. Scooter Adams, to mention, number 6 for them, a quick guy, appropriately nicknamed Scooter. So, but, not only will they throw the ball, they can run it as well.
Yeah, he's as talented a guy that's in our league. We played against him in the spring season, and I think he hit one for a really big gain. And so he's a kid that can go the distance, at any given time. So we're gonna try to do, and improve defensively, and all we have to do is everyone on our defense and our offense. What we've really focused on is everybody just doing their job, and if we get 11 guys playing hard, doing their assignments, on both sides of the ball and in special teams, then we'll be all right on Saturday.
Now, defensively, what do they show? I mean, what are you going to be looking across the line at their defense?
Yeah, so inside they got two big guys. They're both sophomores, and then they've got older guys on the edge. Number 0, he's actually a local kid. He's from Port Arthur. We weren't here when he came out of high school, but Lamar did not recruit him, and so he'll have a little. We played.
Hey, it wasn't me.
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't. But he's a heck of a football player now, and what they're gonna do is they're gonna give you an even front and an odd front. They're gonna play a little man coverage behind it. They're gonna give you a one high safety or a 2 high safety a little bit, and they're gonna blitz you. And so it's somewhat unpredictable, and we've got to do a great job of just assignment sound football and mixing the run and the pass. And as you fast forward after Saturday, you look back and if we're balanced on offense and we can run the ball effectively, then I think you'll see us getting the ball into Jalen Dumay's and Savon Ray's hands and a few other guys, throwing the football.
Going up against a big, experienced defensive front, your young offensive lines, they got to step it up.
Yeah, we've got to get them running. So we've got to get them on the perimeter. We've got to make them run. We've got to, and one thing I thought we did on offense pretty well last week is we varied the tempo. We changed the tempo. It's going to be really hot on Saturday. It was hot this last Saturday evening, and we've got to slow it down sometimes. Sometimes we've got to speed up. If we feel like that we've gotten deep into a drive. We came off the field after that first touchdown drive where we kind of went a little faster, and our offensive line couldn't breathe. And I could only imagine, how they were feeling on the defensive side of the ball.
Playing a mid-afternoon game and some hot weather. So just talk about. We had Davis on with us a while. We were just talking about keep them fluid and and things.
Well, I was thinking about that, and I saw a couple of football sidelines with coverings, and I was like, in the middle of the day, why wouldn't you cover your benches? And so we went out, and I was like, I'm not scared to do that. We went out and bought a couple of tents for our benches. So it's gonna be 95 degrees. It's gonna be hot. You're gonna be on that turf. It'll probably be 100 plus on the turf. And so when our guys come to the bench, we'll have fans and we'll have covering and we'll try to take care of our guys and keep those guys hydrated.
Let's go back real quick. Your special teams. Just talk about their play through the first 3 games, both kicking, kickoff returns, punt returns, punting, things along those lines. Are you seeing an improvement week by week?
Yeah, it's been very, very encouraging because our specialists have Alfonso's done a great job hitting the ball, just hang time and
average 47 a punt this past Saturday.
Yeah, he's done a fantastic job. We're doing a great job of covering when he does hit it, and so I think our effort on the punt team has been good. Same thing on punt return. Now, on the punt return team, I want to be I want to create an explosive play on a return or a block. Mm-hmm. And then the kickoff, we talked about the kickoff return team. A guy like Demaje Harris is explosive. And Chris Escada has done a good job on, didn't kick any field goals this last week. And then Colby, on the kickoffs, we've done a couple different things with our kickoffs. Hit a squibs against SMU, and we've asked him to do a few things. And having all 3 guys kind of take ownership of their responsibilities it's been fun, and a lot of our guys with unique roles have done a great job of just being team players in that regard. And I just want to see those guys rewarded. The guys have worked so hard, and they're playing hard, and a lot of guys have been team players, and everybody's so hungry just to be on top at the end of the game. Coaching staff, Coach Conley, our team, those guys have just worked tirelessly, and they're playing hard. And so, we've got to keep doing what we're doing, continue the process, and that's it. Hopefully, we'll be on top.
Got a little over a minute to go, and here we are on Wednesday night. Just talk about Thursday, Friday, and plans leading up to kickoff.
Thursday's it's an awesome day for us because as coaches, you get to Wednesday night and you've been running hard Coach is working, umpteen hours, and then you get to Thursday and finally get to see our families and take kids to school and that sort of thing, and so that's fun. And it's a lower key. It's a walkthrough. Yeah. Our guys get to sleep in. They get to rest and recover, and then Friday we'll go fast. Drive up to Alexandria is where we're staying.
Okay.
And then it's a little bit different. I mean, we haven't played an afternoon game yet, so it'll go faster. We'll wake up on Saturday and turn on College game day, and we'll turn around and we'll be on the bus and ready to go play. And I love it. I love day games. It's going to be steamy, but hey, let's go.
All right, Coach, thank you so much. We'll see you Saturday in Natchitoches.
All right, go Cards.
That's going to do it for this week's Coach Blane Morgan Show. Again, Saturday afternoon up in Natchitoches, Louisiana. It's the Cardinals at Northwestern State. If you can't make it, pick it up right here on KLVI with a 3 o'clock airtime and a 3:30 kickoff. So that's going to do it. We're back here next Wednesday at Little Woodrose for the Coach Blane Morgan Show. Thanks to Chelsea back in the studios. For Coach Morgan, I'm Harold Mann. Good night, everyone.